Well, hello everyone who from around the world who's coming to this free taster on conscious benevolent leadership. So we're going to spend the next 45 minutes just exploring what it looks like to give you an idea of what's possible in your life, and this whole notion of leadership and destroying and uncreating all of the points of view we've got about what leadership is and what it isn't. So Simone, you've been talking with a lot of people around the world about this whole notion of benevolent leadership and what that looks like in their life. What are the sort of things that you're finding?
Okay, so some of the things that I'm finding, and some of the things that I would like to change in people, is they actually look at everybody else to be a leader rather than choosing to be the leader themselves. Yes, there are those people out there, those random people who have this sort of determination to, I want to say, boss everyone around. But it's not about that. It's about true leadership is like, you know, the ability to transform anything. It's the ability to empower people. It's the ability to, you know, bring people forward with their capacities and, you know, and enhance that. And it's like, you know how the old saying goes of like, you know, you think, you know, one person can't change the world. Well, guess what? They can. And it can be you. And it's like, if you're becoming a leader in your life, and it's like, not just your business, and it's like, then we can change the world. So I'm seeing people out there who don't actually really get what being a leader is, and that's what I would like to change, and that's what I would like to empower people today and in our series to see if we can help change that.
And I would like to add to what Simone just said then is that, you know, anywhere that you think what leadership really truly is, you realize that you bought that concept or the notion of leadership, would you be willing to destroy and uncreate everywhere and start it from different space with us? Because when we talk about leadership, we're not talking about leadership from this contextual reality about control, force, and effort. We're talking about being the leader, not about doing leadership.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, in that every time we think, oh, this word leadership, it's not for me. Well, what if it was? And what if you don't like the word leadership, change it for something else. You know, being you might be a good subtitle for it.
Well, one of the things that we're
go on.
Sorry, I was just going. When you're a dreamer, and it's like, what if leaders were dreamers? What if, like, every dream you had as a kid and growing up, that was you beginning to be a leader? Because if you actually start to institute that dream, and am I echoing a lot?
No.
It's like you actually start to, I am in my end. So if you actually start to institute that dream, then it's like, is that being a leader of your life? Rather than just going, oh, that's not a possibility, or that's for everybody else, or I can't do that, and all the I can'ts, you know, the reasons why that you have decided that you cannot actually create what it is that you'd like to create in your life. What if being a leader was being a dreamer?
And it's wonderful when you said that, because when we're talking about being a dreamer, someone who is a dreamer is truly have a vision about what they would like to create as their life and living. Some people who don't have that at all will have to work a little bit more diligently to become aware of what it is they would like to create as their life. And that's the first key to, unless you know what you would like to create as your life and living, you're not going to be able to physically actualize it. So if you're not a dreamer, and if you don't have a vision about what it is that you would like to create, you have to be in the question all the time, every moment. What would I like to create as my life and living? And one moment in time, you're going to get that aha moment and say, this is it. So don't ask that question and expect the answer right away. So if you're not seeing yourself as a dreamer, and if you don't have a vision about what it is that you would like to create as your life and living, and what being a leader is all about, just keep on asking questions, and before you know it, you're going to become aware of what that is.
And we're still asking the question every day. So it's not as if you're trying to find an answer for it. It's the conversation that you have either with your partner or with yourself or anyone who'll listen about, so what is it that I want to create with my life and living? What does that look like? And it's really it's the conversation, it's the exploring of that that is probably more important than having a definitive answer of what you're after.
Yeah, and Steve, I love the way you said that too, because it's like, it's not this place, this pinnacle that you get to. It's the constant state of question. And it gets way more fun when you're willing to ask more questions and not go to an answer and not go to a conclusion. And, you know, it's interesting when we're talking about like this, you know, the leader who has the dream and the visionary. And it's like, I remember when I first sort of had this concept of how business could be created in this world. And anyone I spoke to, no one, I listened to them, I was like, ooh, they don't get the way I see business can be done in this world. And I was smart enough not to talk to anyone about how I saw that business could be done. And I listened to everybody, listened to lawyers, accountants, people who had businesses, you know, colleagues, everything, listened to everyone and sort of took in the information. And the only time where I went was like this sense of relief when I listened to Gary Douglas talk, and I was like, oh, this guy, the, you know, founder of Access Consciousness, is talking about the way I know business can be done in this world. And he was the first person that I felt like I could actually sort of, I want to say, like, release the dream that I had of having business done in this world from a really different place. So it's like, you may have these visions, you may have these dreams that you don't find anyone else right necessarily so that matches that. But it's like, what if you were willing to move forward, tackle that, like, no matter what it takes, no matter what, you know, anyone else says, no matter what anybody else projects at you, and you keep moving forward and ask questions and have fun with it. And also be willing to fail, be willing for something not to show up the way you think it should, because it never, ever does.
And I think the key thing, what you said there, is willing to let go of what everyone else said that it should be. Because people think that being a leader need to be assertive, need to, you know, be form, structure, and significant, need to do this, need to do that. Anytime that you come to the awareness of what the leader needs to be, you just have to be willing to destroy and uncreate all of that and be in the question. So what would it look like if I choose to be a leader? What would it be like for me? It's not buying into the concept and the notion of leadership. It's about, what is leadership mean to you? What does it mean to you to be a leader? Because we all can have that capacity, and it's just showing up in different ways.
If I can sort of add to that too, we deal with leaders on a daily basis. These are, you know, big CEOs of large organisations, little CEOs of large organisations, little CEOs of big organisations. But the thing that comes through, those that are actually being leaders are those who are willing to realise that every choice they make creates the future. And so what they're doing, and what we're encouraging everyone to look at, is that every choice you make actually creates a future. How? Don't know. That it does? Do know. So if we're aware that every choice that we make actually creates a future, you're constantly looking at what the future might be, could be, perhaps could be, and what are the choices that we're currently making right now that is helping us actually create the future that we desire. And it happens constantly. It's not like sitting down and mapping out the future. If you try and do that, you'll always be disappointed, because the future doesn't work that way. It just is. So one of the things that we're finding more and more is to understand that the choices, every single choice we make, actually creates the future. So if you're willing to be aware of what that future might be like, it helps you look at the choices that you might create as well.
Hey, I'm so excited. I love talking to you guys, and I want to add to that too, because yesterday we had with Gary Douglas, and one of the things when you're saying that what choices can you make, and also you've got to look at what choices, if you don't make it, like sometimes there's a choice to not make a choice. Like there's some stuff happening in a business that we're involved in, and, you know, someone was wanting to sort of go, we need to change this, we need to do this, we need to da, 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 you know, all this sort of doing this. And Gary goes, no, we need to sit back and wait, because nobody's willing to listen right now. So that's also a choice. So it's like when you're making these choices, it's not sort of like the weight of the world's on your shoulders and you have to be the one to direct it constantly, because I see people misidentify and misapply leadership and micromanaging as well, and that's a huge topic. And it's like, so sometimes it's like allowing people to do something, and having the awareness. Just because you have an awareness doesn't mean you have to do anything about it. That choice might mean not actually choosing something today. That's the choice.
And I like that, allowing people to do something But from the space that you are in the question, to know that even if they fail, it's going to create greater possibilities for everyone concerned. But if you are a true leader, you're already in the question to know, whether this person can create or not create, and not having the expected outcome about how it's going to look like. So you will allow them to fail or to create greater possibility if you don't have the outcome that they have to succeed every time. And like you said, Simone, it's about following the energy. The true conscious benevolent leader follow energy always, because they don't come from the fixed point of view about how things are supposed to be. So if they truly become conscious and truly become benevolent, they would follow the energy and know that whatever they're choosing in that moment to play with all these people going to create greater possibility and to be the catalyst for different possibility for everyone concerned, including the world.
I love that, and that's where
if I can add to that as well
too. Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the things that I just go back to what you were saying before, Simone, and I hope people get this because it's really, really powerful. One of the most strategic things that you can be, and one of the most strategic things that you can do in your life or in your organization, is your willingness to say no. Because saying no is a choice for creating a different possibility to something. And too often we find people saying, "Oh, we've got to be a leader. We've got to do everything." No, you don't. You've also got to be willing to say no to something as well too. Now, and no doesn't mean never. No just means not now. Now's not the time. So one of the things we always talk about with leaders in the corporate sense is, look, one of your greatest gifts to this organization is the willingness and the ability to say no to things.
And not from resistance and reaction, and not from alignment and agreement, but from a choice, one of your choices. No, not in this 10 seconds.
Yeah. Now, we've got questions coming through. We love our questions. Thank you, Galina. We've got a question which says, being a leader, does it require taking on the responsibility for their actions? Well, let's take each part of it. So what if it wasn't about responsibility? What if whenever you took any action or you took a choice, you were willing to be aware of what might be the possible outcomes that come from that, and you deal with them as they arise? What if every choice that you made just led to other choices as well too? It just feels, in the corporate world, they say you've got to take responsibility for your actions. Well, I'm not sure that's the right language we want to use here. What we do want to do is to be willing to know what are the possibilities that our choices are making, and then change those choices if that's required. You never hide behind things. You're willing to receive anything. And so any good leader knows that you receive the good, the bad, and the ugly, and you deal with it as it occurs. So she says, does it require taking on the responsibility for your action and for everyone involved? So my question would be, what do you mean by responsibility? What does responsibility look like? Responsibility is from whose perspective? What if we didn't call it responsibility? What if we called it shaping the future? What if you changed the whole conversation around it? So I wouldn't get too hung up about what most people think responsibility is, because to me it's probably more of a judgment than anything else.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think responsibility is such a loaded word. In this contextual reality, responsibility in business world is meaning that to achieve something. What if there's not about a fixed view about what need to achieve? Responsibility meaning willing to follow the energy and create something that create greater possibility.
The other thing I like, and Galina, thank you so much for sending this in. The other thing I like about that question, she then says, how can being a leader be from a free choice perspective? And that's a great question, that one, because what we're saying is when you are making choices, you also take into account what this reality expects. So you take into account the strategies, you take into account the legal side of things, you take into account the contracts that you've got, you take into account how others view you as a single mother. Whatever it is that the reality is expecting from you, you take that into account, but you do not buy it as a reality yourself. you use it shamelessly to your advantage. There is always free choice, but the choices that make the biggest difference are those where you actually choose from awareness of what this reality is expecting and using that to your advantage rather than feeling that you have no choice and you must do what's expected.
I think let's the three of us talk about what it means to do the free choice perspective, because you know, choice is only lasts 10 seconds anyway, right? So the free choice perspective is, you know, it's not just fixed, so it's free. You just have to keep changing your choice and keep making another choice. Simone, do you have anything to add about the free choice?
I have a great story about this whole sort of thing, because years and years ago, I mean, I've been worldwide coordinator of Access Consciousness, I don't know, 12, 14 years or something like that. And years ago, there was something that occurred that it wasn't a great choice for the business, but I made that choice. And later I realized that Gary knew that I was making a choice that wasn't going to be as expansive. And I said to him, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Why didn't you stop me?" I said, "It's your company. Why didn't you stop me? We could have gone in a much quicker direction. It could have expanded a lot more if I hadn't made this choice." And he looked at me, and this is being a true leader, a benevolent, conscious leader. And he said, "Yeah." He said, "But if I told you, you would never have had the awareness yourself." And he said, "Now you have the awareness, and nobody can take that from you." Yeah, and it's like, that blew me away, that for someone who owned this huge, large company was allowing me to basically stuff up in his company, but he saw the value of me having my own awareness and having more awareness and expanding on that rather than expanding on the profits. And it's like, that's truly the benevolent, conscious leader. So that's free choice.
And Gary's target is always having people expand their awareness and consciousness anyway. His business is never about making, you know, money. And money, he's willing to receive obscene amount of money, but not about that. So his priority is about everyone expand their awareness. So I can see that example to be affirming everything that he has been talking about, how to run business.
We've got another great question in there, which I think ties into this, but in a very strange way, because that's the way my mind works.
I love the way your mind works, Steve.
Can you speak about accountability? Oh boy, can we speak about accountability. I mean, one of the things in terms of accountability is, again, I just encourage everyone, when you hear this word accountability, don't go into the shock, horror, this is, you know, someone trying to control. What if accountability was the willingness to see the effect that your choices had on everything and everyone around you and making changes when required? True accountability, and we teach this to boards around the world, true accountability is when you actually understand the change that you want to see and you look to see whether you're creating that change, and if you're not creating that change, change. There's accountability.
The willingness to say, I am wrong, and willingness to say, what else is possible is accountability. A lot of leaders out there think accountability meaning making a choice and keep on, pushing on, and not willing to admit or look at the mistake that they make and keep on doing. That's not accountability, that's just silliness.
Well, I think in this reality, accountability also has a lot of force to it, and it has the rightness of their point of view. And it's like, you know, you must get this right, you must sign off on this, or you know, this is your area, and it's like you're accountable for this, rather than, I mean, I'm so lucky, the people I work with, we're constantly working on different projects, different things around the world, and it's like, yes, there's leaders within those projects, and yet we're so willing to know that moment when we go, hey, I need some help here. And it's like, can you contribute to this, or this is what's required? So it's not like we're making ourselves totally accountable for everything that shows up. We're actually willing to receive contribution, and contribution is such a huge topic again, which I'm sure we're going to cover in our 3-day series of the Benevolent Conscious Leader, because you have to be willing to receive contribution and also gift contribution too.
So one of the things, again, this is probably might help also Patricia, because it's a great topic. When we teach accountability, we actually call it accountability. But when we talk about accountability, we say, look, true accountability comes from asking 4 questions. The first question is, so what's working here? The second question is, so what's not working here? What do we need to change about it? The third question is, what are we missing? And the fourth question then becomes, what do we agree to change? If you keep that going, there's true accountability. And whether or not that's done publicly, internally, with staff, just with yourself, it's a great series of questions to actually be and live. What's working? What's not working? What are we missing? What do we need to change? And that from our perspective, is where true accountability comes from.
The true accountability is willing to change on the dime and being willing to ask what else is possible.
So basically it comes down to question, choice.
Possibility, contribution. Exactly.
Exactly.
See, those 4 things, question, choice, possibility, and contribution, we use those constantly. We use it when we're keynoting in front of thousands of people. Okay, we use it when we're talking one-on-one with leaders around the world. Because what it does is it gets you to look at things differently. What question is there in here? What question can I be? What question can they be? What are the different questions? So you question the question. And then choice. What are the choices we've got here? What would these choices create? What are the choices we don't want to make? And then question, choice, possibility. What are the possibilities? You can actually start asking these things in every situation. And people get it. People actually get it. I do a 1-hour keynote presentation on ethics. Guess what the 4 issues were that I addressed when I was talking to 2,000 people about ethics? Question, choice, possibility, contribution. Using that as a way of looking at the world gives you enormous clarity just by asking those questions.
Hey, one of the things that you just said, Steve, that I'd like to sort of expand on, or have you expand on it, and I think it goes back to right at the beginning when we were talking about that people see themselves a lot of the time as separate from being a conscious, benevolent leader, is when you said people get it. And it's like, because if we weren't trying to buy into this reality and the rules and regulations and the projections of what it's meant to be, and it's like, you know, when someone speaks to you and you do get it, and it's like this moment where you're like, oh yeah, this is what makes me feel lighter. This is the place that I know I can create from. And it's like, what if you, being a benevolent, conscious leader, was that place of lightness?
Yeah, and what if being a leader was that place of lightness? I think maybe if we said that one more time. So what if being a leader was that place of lightness? Because most people, when they think of leadership, most people, when they think of leadership, immediately go into the, that's not for me, or that's someone else, or I don't want to be a leader, or I can't be a leader, or whatever. And this, so what if it was actually light? What if it was actually fun? What if it was actually just a choice? And what if the gift of that and the start of that was to truly get that every choice you make creates the future?
But how often when people say, I don't want to be the leader, always connect to the next, I don't want to be accountable, and I don't want to be responsible, and I don't want to have a choice, I don't want to be wrong, I don't want to. It's not from the space. So what can I be to be the leader? It's always come from the space, I don't want to be this, I don't want to be that. So when you're starting to think that I don't want to be accountable for anything, I don't want to make decision and choice on anything, step back and say, who do I have to be? If I am a conscious, benevolent leader that I'm not willing to be now, and feel that energy, you know, that is just the being, the energy of conscious, benevolent leader, and not about doing anything.
And what if that was you being a mother and dealing with your kids, or you being a father and dealing with your parents, or you being who you are in your circumstances in life right now? What if you're willing to be a leader from this perspective? Because look, quite honestly, it's way too much hard work not to be a leader. You've got to actually destroy all of your awarenesses. You've got to be constantly feeling threatened. You've got to be all those things. It's so much damn hard work. So much easier if you're willing to choose to be a conscious, benevolent leader. Makes life easier for everyone.
And I love what you guys are saying too, and it's like that place of, like we said before, the willingness to be wrong. Like, and I love the way you asked Chutisa to what would you have to be, and it's like, and perceive that energy, and it's like, sense that, because it's like, what would you have to be is not about being right, it's not about having the correct degree or the 50 billion degrees, and it's like, you know, it's like using this reality to your advantage, and it's like using your awareness to your advantage. And it's like, what do you know? Because every single person has a different awareness. Just because your awareness is different from somebody else doesn't mean that you're wrong. And it's like, how many times have you gone to the wrongness of you because nobody actually gets your awareness? And it's like another great question to ask too. It's like, okay, so is this for now or is it for the future? Just because someone doesn't hear you, like I was saying, for years I used to go, I mean, my dad was an accountant, my brother was too, and when I started business, you know, I sat down and I spoke to them, and they were obviously the authority on, you know, on business, and I listened to them and all of their projections and their points of view about how I now had to run this business. And I remember sitting there in my living room thinking, I know I can do this different, I know I can be different, but I also knew, I was smart enough to know that I couldn't tell them about it. Because in their world, I didn't have a degree, I didn't have any experience, I was just sort of going out there and starting and creating something, you know, from a whim. And it's like, yeah, but what if from that whim is what can create your entire life to be the adventure of living?
And the key thing is, another key question is, if you could not perceive that you be a conscious, benevolent leader, the key question is, what needs to change? But before you can even ask that question, that what needs to change, you have to willing to know and to perceive that it is truly possible for you to be a conscious, benevolent leader. No point asking what needs to change if the back of your mind saying, oh, everyone else can be, but I can't be. So, you know, when we're talking about who would it need to be that I'm not willing to be now, you can feel the lightness in that already before you even thinking about what it's going to look like. So keep asking that question. But the first and foremost, you have to perceive and believe that it is truly possible for you to be a conscious, benevolent leader. Then you can ask all these questions to allow you to have awareness of what else is possible.
We've had a great question come in. I think Galina's on a roll here. The question that she's asked here is, does being a benevolent leader work? How does a benevolent leader work regarding to making a company profitable? Okay, so let's hoe into this one. First of all, what do we already judge as profitable? Is profitable coming from doing the things you've always done and hoping you'll make more money? Well, that's a definition of insanity. What if profitability was about looking to see how our choices created the future? What are the futures that we want to create? What are the different things that we could change in our business right now, as well as not changing, as well as changing, so that we can start looking at all the different things that we can create as well as what we're currently creating? Profitability from that, true profitability, comes from having a wide range of possibilities as an organization, and then following those, and some will work and some won't. Those that work will be exceptionally profitable. Those that don't work, you just put down to research and development.
Well, conscious benevolent leader doesn't just try to maximize profit. They do both, knowing what it would take to create the profit as well as maximize possibilities in their business, in their life, and in the world. So they have to combine both maximizing possibility as well as making money for the company. I mean, there's no point having a business, an organization, if you cannot make money. And conscious benevolent leader know what it would take to generate and create money. So everyone who works with them can have a great life as well.
And don't forget, money isn't just that green stuff that goes into your bank account. Money comes in all sorts of different forms, comes from all different areas, can be in your bank account or not be in your bank account. So what we've got to get over also, in terms of for our company to be profitable, we've got to understand that money just isn't what we've already decided money is. Our revenue doesn't come from just the areas we've already decided our revenue should come from. And the conscious benevolent leader will be constantly looking to see what choices can we make that create even greater change in the world. Do you think people might pay for that? Damn right they will.
And just to add to all of this as well, and it's like years ago, at one point, Gary and I sat down because we had so many different companies and we had so many different projects. And when we looked at them, we were like, okay, so which ones are actually creating revenue stream, like which ones are creating money for us, and which ones were creating more consciousness? So it's sort of like, because consciousness was our awareness, was the target of where we're heading to. So some of them weren't real money spinners at that time, but we were willing for them to still exist and be there because they were maximizing the possibilities of what we wanted to create in the world and allowing them to either become a massive revenue stream or maybe not, maybe just be a contribution for a certain amount of time, etc. So one of the things I see people do is kill the future possibilities of what they can create and what they can receive by looking at the profits and going, oh no, this didn't work. And it's like, what? By whose standard? Did you set a date? Like if you got, you know, this date or time that you have to be making a profit by? What if it wasn't? What if it wasn't like that? What if it was the willingness to ask questions and have a look? Is it actually matching the energy of what you would like to create in the world and what you would like to create in your business, your company, your life, etc.? And if it is, then it's like keep expanding on it. And you can also add so many other things, because the one thing I see people do is sort of limit themselves to how many businesses or how many projects they can be working on. I mean, my analogy is always like if you had as many revenue streams as you have sticky notes open in your computer or programs you have, then would that be a lot more fun for you? Nobody just has one.
I really use that as a tool to look at looking at all business and look each one and say, okay, is it possibility? This is going to be create source of revenue stream for us. So if you could just you not to judge the project if it's not making money, we have to delete it now. I really like that as a people don't start going to judgment, be making money in which project. All can do that. Then there could be a balance in what we create in our business and in our life. Not expecting every business or every project to make a lot of money in the linear way anyway. Because at the end, we make.
Hey, Chutisa, I think you've said some wonderful things, but apparently you sounded like a robot underwater. So since I spoke,
I am a robot.
Able to hear it. You are a robot. Okay. See, look, there's a. So, after I finished talking, like I think we missed your wonderful, profound information. Can you repeat what you were saying for us?
It was really good.
And can never be repeated again.
We'll just keep talking. Something else will come.
Okay, all right, cool. It sounded really good. The energy was great of the robot underwater. So, you know. See, a leader's willing to be anything, even if it's being a robot underwater.
You asked on.
So, there's another question up here. Did you see that one?
Yeah,
from Galena as well?
That one for you.
Oh, you left it for me? So from your point of view, does deal and deliver relate to accountability? And if yes, how? The one thing I always see that people get extremely confused about deal and deliver is they think it's almost like this micromanaging thing of like, this is the deal and this is what you have to deliver. Deal and deliver is about awareness. It's about the awareness of what someone will deliver and what they can contribute and what they're willing to receive and vice versa, okay? This is not like this hard-lined contract thing that it's like, you know, now if you break the deal and deliver, and it's like the awareness is, you know what, something's changed, so we've got to change our situation. Because it's like most people think, automatically assume that someone's on the same page as them. What if you never assumed that, and what if you were willing to, you know, extrapolate, and it's like, have a look at what's been created and say, okay, so, you know, which pieces would you like to work on? I'm constantly asking the staff I work with, and it's like, okay, so what would you like to create here, or how would you do this? Because it's like me telling them how they're going to do it, and then if they don't deliver it and being disappointed, that's not being a benevolent conscious leader. That's not going to work. It's not going to be empowering for them, and it's definitely not fun for me. So if you're willing to have that place of awareness with someone, that's a much better place and a much easier place to start.
We've found the deal and deliver with our clients is all about clarity and asking questions to get clarity, whether it's overt or covert, whether it's actually spoken or unspoken. But that deal and deliver is the awareness of what the other person is willing to receive, what they're willing to be, what I'm willing to be. And when you actually, and it starts off with just asking yourself the question, so what's the deal and deliver here? Without you saying it out loud necessarily, or even your lips moving.
Yeah,
and it's not funny, making someone accountable for what they do or what they don't do either. It's not making anyone wrong. Deal and deliver. And I see so many people, like I said, misidentify it. Deal and deliver is not about wrongness or rightness. It's awareness.
They're made into a contract, isn't it, Simone? How often we talk to people and they talk about, oh, we did the deal and deliver with someone. You can feel that they have done a contract with someone, you know, like they have the list about the thing that they have to deliver, and if you don't deliver it, you will be in big trouble. So they made it into the contract instead of become aware of what can this person deliver.
I mean, we have with Joy Business, if you're hosting a class or something,
like you must deliver.
Exactly. And we have what we call it an awareness agreement. And the awareness agreement is basically, because when you're hosting a class, so many people are like, oh, well, what's expected of me? What do I have to do here? So we have like a checklist, you know, finding the venue, and it's like, you know, promotional stuff, because some people work on promotion, some people work on translation, some people work on the ground. So we basically have a checklist, and we call it the awareness agreement, and say, hey, have a read through. Do you have any questions? Would you like to add somebody else? Like, is this an area that you don't actually feel like you can expand on? And if so, then let's get somebody else. Let's get a connector to make phone calls or something. But what it does is it starts people to function from question. And it's like, and having a look, oh yeah, actually I'd like to give this a go, or no, you know what, this is not my forte, so let's add somebody else. But it starts that ball rolling of everybody not assuming that they're on the same page, but actually having way more awareness of what everybody's willing to perceive, know, be, and receive.
What we are doing with our staff as well, that, you know, we might have things and projects that they have to do, and we always say to them, you know, become aware of what's not fun for you. Like, if it's not fun for you, let's put it out there and say, this project is not fun for me. Who would like to do it? And if no one else, I actually created that space for them. We said that, you know, there's so many contractors and so many people out there in the universe that can do this thing. Force yourself to try to do something that's not fun for you. Let us know that this is not, and then we put it out there to try to find, you know, someone else to do it, and that creates so much a space for creation for them. And this is something totally different that we create with our staff, because we give them permission to say, hey, I don't like to do this, instead of pretending that they have to keep on doing it because they've been hired to do. Give them permission to say, I don't like to do it, and it's not fun for me, so can we hire someone to do it?
No, it's a great leadership skill, and we did that too with Joy Business, because it becomes obvious too, and it's like, and people are slower, they're not, you know, and it's like, if you empower them to actually choose what it is that they would like to choose, and it's like, you get a much quicker, faster, better, greater, more than you've ever, you know, imagined, possibilities show up. Hey, while we've got a semi-little break here, I am going to tell everybody when we have our classes on.
So in terms of,
I think we've got a slight delay here. So, but let me just talk about
Yeah.
because we've actually, Stephen Chutisa Bowman and myself have got a class happening. It's on the 16th, 17th, and 18th of December. That's Australia time. So, but you can go to our website. You go into accessjoyofbusiness.com and check out classes, and it will be there. We're actually running this class through the Access Possibility School. So it's brand new for us to be doing that as well. And it's on a program called Haiku. So it's almost similar to Google Hangouts. You get to see each other's faces. You don't have to have your face there if you don't want, but it all shows up, and it'll be at in the morning of Australia time. So we've made it at a time that pretty much is going to suit the whole entire world, because I know my target is that every single person running a business, every single person waking up and having blood running through their veins should be willing and able and have the courage to actually start to be that benevolent, conscious leader that they truly be. So it's in December, mid-December, 16th, 17th, and 18th. So please check it out and join us.
And bring along your questions, because if you ask us questions as we go through that, we're going to test things in ways that you couldn't imagine, nor could we until you ask the questions. So it really does open up things. So
no, we love questions. I mean, there's so much information that we all have, and it's like, I mean, I constantly, I meet up with the Bowmans, with Brendan, my partner, and we have these financial 101 conversations, and we talk about what we can create in the world, and it's like, you know, even with the taxation system, with you know, accounts, and it's like with many different companies, with trust, and it's like, what sort of things do you need to put in place to create that future that you would actually like to have and be, is one of the things that we're saying. Hey, I think we might sort of start to finish this off, because I know that we can't hear the Bowmans very well at all. They still sound like they're robots underwater, which is very funny because they're in Melbourne, Australia, and I'm in the Sunshine Coast, and usually our internet is way worse than Melbourne, so I'm not sure what quite is going on here, but I'm getting the signs from Francesca telling me that we can't really hear them very well, and I know I can't hear them either. So, but we'll try and say goodbye. How about that? So I am really, really grateful that Stephen Chutisa took the time and to be here with you guys, and we will send this recording out. And like I said, we'd love you to join us on our 3-series telecall. Stephen Chutisa did a 4-day class, Benevolent Capitalism, with Gary Douglas in Melbourne. It's on live stream. It was 4 days. It was absolutely wonderful. So I know there'll be, you know, tools, etc., spilling out into our call through the Access Possibility School. So if you need to find out more information, contact us. You can also email team@accessjoybusiness.com, and we'll always be happy to give you more information. So, Stephen Chutisa, I wonder if we can hear you now. We can see you.
Simone.
Oh, there we go.
Forward to it.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to it too. Thank you so much, and thank you everyone for joining us and your questions, and we'll see you soon. Bye, everybody.